Hello and welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of For Pete's Sake. In the unlikely event that anyone is joining us for the first time, this is a ongoing YouTube series in which I randomly select one of my dad's vinyls. My dad passed away in 2018 from lung cancer in November of 2018. So the purpose of this is to go through those records that my dad left behind and listen to them and kind of talk about the memories that they evoke and to delve into his life and get the kind of man he was and all that kind of stuff. So the first season wrapped up quite a long time ago now. I've had quite a big break. I did 10 albums in that first season, but now we are starting up again, and I'm going to try and do an episode every 2 weeks. But tough. Life gets in the way. A couple of things then before we get into this week's album. So the first one is it's Cheltenham Festival this week, the horse racing. My dad was an avid. It was his real passion in life was horse racing, and Cheltenham was a big thing for him every year. It was his favourite kind of race meet, I think. So last time it was Cheltenham week. I think I spoke in one of the episodes about like what it was like going out with my dad and his mates and how that could be intimidating, but also exhilarating and seeing a different side of him and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not going to talk about that again. But what I can talk about is what it was like when I was a child this week, historically, because my dad and his friends would go to Cheltenham every week and they would stay in like a bed and breakfast, a bunch of them. And get up to all sorts of terrible hijinks, I imagine, some of which I've heard about, some of which is not suitable for airing publicly. So yeah, but I might delve into some of those things another time. But as a kid, it was the only time when my dad would go away for a significant amount of time, because I think it was 3 days then. So I guess he'd be gone for 4 nights, which when you're a little kid, that feels like forever, like not having your dad there for that time when he's there every day normally. So I really remember that, and I remember like really missing him when he was gone. But also I think like the small excitement of like not having both parents there, so you can maybe get away with more stuff, which gives you an insight into the kind of mindset I had as a child. Awful child, some said. But also my mum would like line up some nice things to do in those days, I think, because she knew that I'd been missing my dad. So like we'd go out for nice food and stuff in the daytime, and she'd arrange all sorts of nice stuff, so that was nice as well. But I was always really excited when he came home, and I remember once he came home early, or earlier than he told me he was coming home, earlier than I expected him to come home. And he came to meet me from the bus, the school bus. I think I'd have been 9 or 10 at this point. So it was when I was at St. Peter's Catholic Primary School, and I used to get the bus to and from. There was a bus stop just near my house, so I'd get the bus by myself. And I remember getting off the bus and not thinking I was going to see my dad until the next day. And he was there at the bus stop waiting for me, which never happened normally. And normally I'd just walk home by myself, different times. And it was so exciting, and that is a really happy memory for me, just seeing him there waiting for me. It was so unexpected. It was really nice. And the other memory I have of Cheltenham week is one year when I was probably maybe a little bit younger than that, maybe about 7. He must have had a really good Cheltenham week in terms of winnings. He must have won a lot of money, because he bought me some kind of toy or something. And he said, "Yeah, I've won a lot of money on the horse racing, so I bought you this thing." But he was very taken aback the following year, when in the run up to Cheltenham Festival, I was like, "So what am I getting this year, Dad?" I didn't understand that it was dependent on how much money he won or lost. But I think he realised in that moment that he'd made quite a terrible mistake, and that he would have to buy me some kind of gift every time he went to Cheltenham. Which, to his credit, he did. Or throughout my childhood, from being a little kid, maybe 4 or 5 years in a row until I was old enough to kind of not need that kind of stuff. He would always bring me back some kind of like toy. So it was almost like, for me, I'd have Christmas, which was like the number one most exciting thing, and then my birthday, which was the second most exciting thing, and then Cheltenham week was like the third most exciting thing, because that was the only other time when I'd get like a gift. So yeah, I've got fond memories of my dad going off to Cheltenham. He stopped going because they went from 3 days to 4 days, I think, so it became more expensive, which again gives you an insight into his priorities. I'm not saying that he was like Ebenezer Scrooge, but I'm not saying that. So that brings us on to our first album of Series 2. Here it is. So this is the Bob Dylan album, Bringing It All Back Home, an absolute classic. This was quite a good one for me because I've been really busy the last couple of weeks, and this is one that I already know pretty well, so I didn't have to like listen to it loads of times and make notes and stuff. I already know this one pretty well. So before we look at the sleeve and all that stuff, I'll just refer to my notes, true professional as always. So this album was released in April of 1965. My dad would have only been 13, so he definitely would have picked this up later on when he was older. And the album was recorded in 2 days, which is mad considering how seminal and how brilliant it is. So this album comes in the wake of where Dylan met the Beatles for the first time in August of 1964, and that kind of really influences, they become quite close friends but also musical rivals, and that influences him to kind of expand his sonic palette. So a lot of people think Like a Rolling Stone Highway 61 Revisited is the first album where Dylan goes electric, but actually it's this album, it's the first side of this album, which we'll get into in a minute. So let's take a look. Now I had a look on eBay. I looked at this and I noticed that it's a mono and it's got a little code number 62515. So I googled that, and there's copies of this kind of version of this album, because this is an original from 1965, going for like hundreds of pounds on eBay. Unfortunately, my dad didn't look after it, so I don't know how much this one will be worth, but it's really weathered kind of on the side here, and you can see like the circular kind of stain thing there because it doesn't have anything protecting it. Another thing I noticed, I've seen this cover 1,000 times, but you don't really stop to look at album covers, I feel like. So you've got Bob there looking pretty cool on the cover. I don't know who that lady is with him, probably should have researched that. But that's because I was too distracted by the fact that there's a number of other records here, and one of them is none other than the 30s blues singer who sold his soul to the devil, as legend goes, to become the best guitar player of all time, Robert Johnson. If I hold that up to the camera, perhaps you can see that. So some strange circularity there, because that, of course, is my name. I wasn't named after Robert Johnson. That'd be weird. But my dad did say he was aware of it, and it was in his mind when him and my mum came up with Robert. So a couple of other things on the back. You've got like a poem. These aren't lyrics. This is a long poem that Dylan wrote. You've got, I like this little thing here, other albums by Bob Dylan you might enjoy. That's very helpful, thank you. In fact, it says other albums by Bob Dylan you will enjoy. A threat, almost. You will enjoy them or else. And then it's just the song titles and then a few pictures of Bob doing various things. If we open it up, hopefully it won't just fall to pieces. But there's not much to report on the inner sleeve. It's just pretty standard. Quite yellow with age now, unsurprisingly. And it's just that kind of thing. No kind of special artwork or anything like that. Just pop that back. So listening to this album, again, first of all, it was a pleasure. It really is a fantastic album, this one. It's right up there with Dylan's best. I think what's interesting about art, whether it be films or music or cinema, TV or whatever it may be, is that the art doesn't change, but you do. And as I've grown older, I think Highway 61 Revisited, which held such a special place in my heart for so many years, I've kind of cooled on that album a little bit. Listening to this album recently, for this, really, maybe this is my favourite, or maybe it's just the one I've listened to most recently. But let me talk about some of the songs on here then. So I'm not going to go into all of them, obviously. I want to talk about, well, I'll leave the one that's most significant to my dad for last. So I will begin with, Mr. Tambourine Man, you've got to talk about that one. It's an absolute classic, isn't it? It's just beautiful. Lyrically, Dylan moves away from kind of protest music here into something that's more surreal, and that's where he's going to be for the next three or four albums, which definitely is kind of tied up to all the Beatles stuff as well. They go down that road as well with their next 3 albums. They're about to release Help and then Rubber Soul, the Beatles, at this time, so they're just about to enter their experimental phase as well. But Mr. Tambourine Man, it still sounds amazing. I prefer Dylan's version to the Byrds version, and lyrically it's incredible. I still don't know what any of it means, but it just sounds so beautiful, it doesn't matter. And then the last 2 songs on the album are just incredible. I should say that side 1 of this album, side A, is electric, full band, and side B is more like Dylan's older kind of folky acoustic stuff. But it's also different from it. It's like it's another lurch forward for him. This was his 5th album, so he's really hitting his stride here at this point. But the last 2 songs, It's Alright Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, with its kind of descending melody, beautiful guitar intro, incredible lyrics, great title. Just brilliant. And then straight after that, It's All Over Now, Baby Blue, which is again just an absolutely beautiful miracle of a song, just incredible, love it. One of his great kind of breakup songs, of which he has many. Very bitter man, old Bob Dylan is. But my dad's favourite song on this album, and my favourite song on this album, and one of my favourite songs of all time, is undoubtedly Subterranean Homesick Blues. So if you haven't heard this song, you have heard it, you just don't know it. Stick it on Spotify or whatever, you will know this song, Subterranean Homesick Blues. It is an absolute classic. Lyrically it's amazing, it just clips along at a kind of crazy pace, almost like a precursor to rap music in some ways. That feels like a bold claim, but I've said it now, so here we are. It always makes me think of my dad, this song, for a number of reasons. One, because he would sing it all the time. Even before, the first time I heard this song, I was like, I recognise this from my dad singing bits of it. And as we've said before, he would always be singing it all the time. But the other thing is, he loved some of the lyrics in this song. And I tried to find this earlier, but I couldn't find it. But I've got a birthday card somewhere in this house. I know it's in this house somewhere. And my dad used to write lovely, he had fantastic handwriting, my dad, which is weird because my handwriting is disgraceful, but he had really beautiful handwriting, which he gets from my grandma Annie, who also had beautiful handwriting. And he would write birthday cards every year, and they would always have a nice little message in them. He was quite a poetic, soulful guy when he wanted to be. And I've got one. It's the last one that he wrote for me before he died. And there's a number of things in there, but one of the things it says is "Don't follow leaders," which is a line from this song, which was something, words to live by for my dad. I always remember him telling me. I remember starting working at this job in a call centre, and the CEO of the company was in the interview with us, and I remember saying something about him like, "Yeah, he was quite an impressive guy." And my dad said, "Never be impressed by anyone." And he didn't mean don't admire anyone. What he meant was, and I understood the meaning of it, don't think that anyone's better than you. Just because someone's wearing a suit and went to a private school, don't be impressed by that. And I think about that all the time. And literally every week I think about that, I think. And it's really guided me in the way that I've lived my life. It's got me into trouble as well quite a few times probably, but what's life for if not for getting into trouble? Yeah, so this is the second Dylan album that we've done. He loved Dylan, my dad did. Only the kind of 60s and 70s era, never followed him beyond that, which is true of much of his musical taste. But he really loved Dylan. And with it being Cheltenham Week this week, I would always go and meet him in the pub, Cheltenham Week, always. Because he'd be out all day, kind of Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So I'd meet him after work Thursday, and then I'd have a couple, because I'd be working on the Friday, and then I'd meet him on the Friday with his mates, and we'd normally have quite a big night, and some of my mates would be there, and I look back on those nights with such fondness now. So I find this week, in some ways, harder than his birthday, or even maybe not Christmas, but his birthday, because we didn't really celebrate birthdays, but I would always go out with him Cheltenham week, and it felt like a thing that me and him had. You know, he got to the point where he'd be saying, "Oh, we'll be in this pub," but I'd never had a mobile phone. We'll be in this pub at this time, and I'd go and meet him, and I looked forward to it. I really looked forward to it, and I loved it. And this week, well, I don't want to turn this into like a confessional, but I'm having quite a stressful time at work at the moment. So when I was walking home from work last week, it was like, God, I would give anything to be going to meet my dad for a couple of pints in the pub now, like anything. Those are the times when you really miss people, aren't they? Like the ache of routine that is kind of taken away from you, and you never lose that feeling of wanting to go back to those routines and all that kind of stuff. But at least I have those memories, and I always, you know, going on long walks this past week and stuff with my headphones in, listening to this album. Most of what I was doing was smiling about the good memories that we had, and it's really enabled me to appreciate this album, like see it for the work of genius that it is. And I think I'm rambling now, so let's wrap it up. I don't know how long this one's been. I hope it's not been too long. Let's see what the next one is going to be, the next album. Now I'm recording, it's night time outside, I'm recording in the dark to try and make the light quality a bit better, so I don't know how this is going to turn out, but hopefully this will be a bit clearer. So let's see, the next episode I'm going to be looking at dramatic irony. You guys can see it, I can't. It's The Boss, Bruce Springsteen, The River. People are probably getting a bit sick of, I mean, my dad had a lot of Springsteen albums, but I'm going to say to that, I don't care, because I love Springsteen, so I'm more than happy to do another Springsteen album, and I love this one. So there's only 2 left. This is one of only 2 left. There's this one and Born to Run. So The River, another great album. Can't wait to dive into that one. That'll be the next episode, coming relatively soon. Thanks for listening, everyone, and goodbye.